Imagine for a moment that your mind is not a problem to be solved, but a universe unfolding in quiet rhythms. Each thought, a ripple on the surface of a vast cosmic sea. We often mistake the noise of our worries for the essence of life, forgetting that even silence is a part of the music. Problems, you see, are not obstacles but invitations, subtle movements in the symphony of your becoming. The rain does not argue with the wind, nor does the mountain resist the storm. They simply are. And so, must we learn not to fixate on the jagged edges of experience, but to soften into them, to ask not why me, but what now? There is a deeper order here, veiled yet precise, where every setback is a seed and every silence a sacred pause. You are not lost, you are being composed. And one day, you will realize you were always part of the music, never the mistake. We often spend so much of our lives running from what we label as problems, those tight knots in the tapestry of our days that seem to interrupt the smooth rhythm we desire. But if we look closely, we might discover that these so-called problems are not intrusions at all. Rather, they are intimate messages, carefully folded into the fabric of our experience, beckoning us to look inward instead of outward, to listen rather than to react. You see, the moment something is perceived as a problem, we have already cast it in shadow. We name it, judge it, resist it, and in doing so, we blind ourselves to what it might have come to teach. The truth is, a problem is rarely about the external circumstance. It's an inner vibration, a signal that something deep within us is calling to be noticed. What appears as conflict or difficulty is often just a threshold, an invitation to cross into greater awareness. But we rarely see it that way, do we? We rush to fix, to control, to make the discomfort go away. Yet the more we resist, the more the problem seems to root itself in our mind, feeding on our attention. And it does so for a very simple reason. It wants to be seen, not solved. It wants us to sit with it in stillness, to observe it like we would observe a bird resting on a branch or a wave rolling toward the shore. It wants presence, not panic. And here's the beautiful irony when we stop trying to fix the problem and begin to witness it with a quiet mind. It begins to dissolve of its own accord. Not because we forced it to, but because the light of our awareness transformed it. We begin to see that the problem was never really separate from the solution. It was simply a doorway, a window through which clarity could shine if only we stopped covering it with fear and judgment. Imagine you're standing in a forest, lost and uncertain of the path ahead. You could panic, focus on your disorientation, on the absence of clear direction. Or you could pause, listen to the wind, watch how the trees lean, notice where the sun rests on the moss. The forest hasn't changed, but your relationship to it has. And suddenly, what seemed like a problem becomes a kind of conversation with the world, one that responds not to your anxiety, but to your awareness. It is the same with life. When we drop the frantic need to label every difficulty as a curse, we discover that each one carries a deeper intelligence, a hidden harmony that only reveals itself when we are still enough to perceive it. Problems are not walls. They are windows. They do not block the light. They filter it in patterns designed specifically for you. Patterns that, if studied with patience and humility, will draw you closer to your own unfolding. So the next time you face something that feels heavy or confusing, try not to fight it. Don't immediately ask, "How do I fix this?" Instead ask, "What is this showing me?" Rest in the silence beneath the chaos. Let it speak. Let it breathe. And you may find that what once looked like an ending is actually the beginning of a deeper becoming. Because what we call problems are not life's mistakes. They are its hidden instructions. We've been taught to fight our way through life, to wrestle solutions into existence, to conquer our circumstances, to fix things the moment they fall out of place. But the more we fight, the more entangled we become. It's like trying to smooth the surface of a pond by splashing in it. The harder we try to force clarity, the more we disturb the water. And yet, beneath all this effort, there is another way of being, one that doesn't seek to control the current, but to move with it. Solutions, you see, are not brute answers carved out by force. They're more like flowers. They don't bloom because we yank them from the soil. They emerge when the environment is right, when the light is gentle and the soil is soft. In the same way, the answers you seek won't come by grinding your teeth or clenching your fists. They arrive when your inner landscape becomes still enough, open enough to receive them. Think about how the universe moves. It doesn't rush. The stars do not hurry across the sky. The tide doesn't crash forward out of desperation. It all flows, unfolding through the path of least resistance. And this isn't laziness. It's wisdom. It's the understanding that force alone doesn't create harmony. True movement arises from alignment, not aggression. When we release our resistance, but with. When we stop treating life as something to battle, we begin to sense the shape of the path beneath our feet, but with. But we're often afraid to let go. We think that surrender is weakness, that acceptance means we're giving up. It doesn't, but with. It means we've finally stopped arguing with what is, with. It means we've stopped feeding energy into the very thing that keeps us tangled. When you stop pushing against the problem, with, you make room for a solution to rise that you hadn't even imagined. Because it was never created by your effort, with, only revealed by your presence. There's a subtle, sacred intelligence running through all things. You can call it life, spirit, nature, it doesn't matter, but it's always speaking. The problem is we're too loud to hear it. We fill the silence with worry, the stillness with noise. We mistake business for progress and struggle for strength. But strength is not how hard you can fight. Strength is how deeply you can trust. Trust the unfolding. Trust the pauses. Trust that life has not forgotten you, even when the road seems unclear. It's in that quiet, when we've laid down our weapons and surrendered our need to control, that something extraordinary begins to happen. With possibility shows its face. The answer glides in like a breeze you didn't expect. It might not look like what you thought you wanted, but somehow it feels just right. It fits. Not because you forced it, but because you allowed it. Sometimes, the most courageous thing we can do is wait. Not in despair, but in reverence. Waiting not for life to bend to our will, but for our awareness to catch up with what life already knows. You are not alone in this. You are not meant to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. There is a rhythm to this universe, a current beneath all things, but and it's pulling you forward even when it feels like you're standing still. Let go. Let the silence speak. Stop trying to push the river. It already knows where it's going, and if you listen closely, it will carry you. Because the solution isn't something you chase. It's something you meet once you've stopped running. Reality, but as we experience it, is not some cold, objective machine ticking away outside of us. It's not something happening to you. It's something happening through you. And the strange, beautiful truth is this, but your perception isn't just interpreting the world, it's shaping it. The way you look at life changes what you see. It's like light passing through a stained glass window. The patterns and colors that emerge depend entirely on the lens. Most of us walk through life staring at problems like they're immovable boulders in our path. We name them, fear them, turn them into symbols of our misfortune. But rarely do we stop to ask what if the problem isn't what I'm looking at, but how I'm looking? What if the boulder isn't blocking the path? It is the path. We don't realize how much power our attention holds. Where your focus goes, energy flows, and most of us, without knowing, pour our attention into what's wrong, into the lack, with the missing piece, the fear. We become so familiar with the weight of the problem that we forget to look up, to notice the space around it where life is still gently unfolding. Imagine this: two people face the exact same circumstance. One sees only the limitations, the closed doors, the discomfort, the tension. The other somehow sees potential, opportunity, growth. They're not living in different worlds. They're just relating to the same moment through different eyes. One is stuck inside the problem. The other has learned to step beside it, tilt their head, and ask a different question. It's not about ignoring pain or pretending everything is beautiful when it isn't. No, that's not it. It's about realizing that even in the pain, there's something being offered. That each challenge is a portal, not a prison. That how you choose to frame your experience determines whether you feel trapped by it or transformed through it. And it's not just some nice idea. It's a living truth you can test. Try it the next time something doesn't go your way, instead of repeating the old internal script. Why is this happening to me? Try asking, what is this trying to show me? That single shift in language can open a door. Because you're no longer a victim of life's events. You're a participant in its unfolding. You begin to see that solutions are not always distant goals. Sometimes they're already present, waiting in the periphery of your awareness. But they only step forward when you change the angle of your gaze. When you stop staring into the problem like it holds the key, and instead start listening to the silence around it. And slowly something opens. A path reveals itself. A pattern forms. Life responds. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. You're no longer a stranger in your own story. You're a co-creator in it. We've been taught to think of life as something we must survive. But what if life is more like a question waiting for your answer? What if every problem is a canvas, and your perception the brush that gives it shape? You have that kind of influence, not over the entire world, perhaps, but certainly over the world as you know it. And when you learn to shift your gaze from what's wrong to what's possible, even the heaviest days begin to feel lighter. You are not a passive observer. You are the lens. You are the composer of meaning. And in this very moment, you can choose to see life not as a burden, but as a conversation. One that deepens each time you shift your focus from the noise of the problem to the whisper of the solution. Because what you see is never just what is. It's also what you are willing to see. There's this quiet illusion many of us live under, the idea that we're separate from the grand unfolding of life, like a spectator sitting in the audience while the play of existence takes place on stage. But the truth is, you were never just watching. You've been on the stage the whole time. You are part of the choreography. Every breath, every detour, every triumph and every tear. It's all part of the dance. You are not an accident of the universe. You are its expression, moving, choosing, creating with each thought, each step, each pause. We often speak about life as though it's something happening to us. This happened to me, we say. But life isn't just something coming at you from the outside. It's also something moving through you. You are not just reacting, you are responding. Not just surviving, you are shaping. You are a co-creator in something far more intricate, far more mysterious than we're usually willing to admit. When you begin to focus on solutions instead of problems, you start to awaken to this truth. You stop seeing yourself as someone tossed around by fate, and begin to see that your awareness, your choices, your energy, these things ripple outwards. They have weight. They carry influence. A thought held in stillness, a word spoken with love, a decision made with clarity, these things echo in the fabric of life. And this is not about control. It's not about manipulating outcomes or forcing things to go your way. No, it's deeper than that. It's about alignment. When you step into your role in the larger symphony, you begin to feel where your note fits. You stop trying to overpower the music and instead let yourself be played by it. There's a kind of surrender in that, a sacred trust, and with it comes a strange sense of peace. You're no longer trying to outthink the universe. You're listening. You're responding in harmony. And when problems arise, and they will, you stop seeing them as evidence that something's gone wrong. You start to recognize them as part of the design. A bend in the river, not a break. A modulation in the music, not a mistake. These challenges aren't just random interference. They're part of your becoming. They're shaping you, refining you, teaching you something that only this exact note in time could teach. Even your mistakes, even your regrets, they aren't wasted. Nothing is wasted. All of it is being used. Every broken piece is part of the mosaic. You are being sculpted by your experience, not to become perfect, but to become whole, to become more deeply yourself. And when you shift your attention from the weight of the problem to the possibility of the solution, you begin to feel it. That quiet sense of purpose humming underneath everything. That intuition that maybe, just maybe, you're exactly where you need to be, even if you don't yet understand why. You are not here by chance. The same intelligence that orchestrates the stars and turns the tide is at work in you. You are not lost. You are not behind. You are participating in something vast, ancient, and endlessly creative. So when life feels heavy, when the way forward seems hidden, remember you're not alone in the dark. You are the light discovering itself in real time, because your journey is not a detour. It is the very path itself, written in the language of your soul.